Somewhere beneath the silver light of a Texas moon, a creature covered head to tail in bone-like armor is about to make the worst mistake of its life. It has survived ice ages, outlived saber-toothed predators, and carried the same defensive design for over 55 million years. But tonight, none of that ancient engineering will matter, because the animal stalking it through the mesquite brush has spent its entire existence perfecting a single, silent skill: killing before its prey even knows it is being hunted. What you are about to see is a collision between two of North America's most misunderstood animals, and by the time this story ends, you will understand exactly why one of them is walking away and the other is not. Stay until the final minute, because the way this hunt unfolds will completely change how you see the so-called harmless armored mammal wandering through your own backyard. If you enjoy videos like this, subscribe now and drop a like. The bobcat is, without question, one of the most successful predators on the entire North American continent, and yet it remains almost invisible to the very people who share its territory. It ranges from the swamps of Florida to the deserts of Arizona, from the forests of Maine to the canyons of Mexico, adapting its hunting style to whatever landscape it finds itself in. An adult bobcat typically weighs between 15 and 30 pounds, roughly the size of a large house cat, but built with an entirely different purpose. Its hind legs are longer than its front legs, giving it explosive power in short bursts, the kind of power needed to leap 8 feet in a single bound and land directly on top of prey that never heard it coming. Its ears are tipped with small tufts of black fur that some researchers believe enhance its hearing, allowing it to detect the faintest rustle of movement in dry leaves or loose soil. But the bobcat's greatest weapon is not its claws, its teeth, or even its speed. It is patience. A bobcat can crouch motionless for 20 minutes or more, becoming part of the landscape itself, using whatever cover the terrain provides, tall grass, brush, fallen logs, to close the distance one silent step at a time. When the gap finally narrows to a few feet, everything changes in an instant. The cat explodes forward, its hind legs firing like a released spring, and its front paws slam down to pin the target before it can react. A single precise bite to the neck or skull usually ends the confrontation in well under a second, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Every hunt that drags on or turns into a real fight risks injury, and in the wild, even a minor wound can become a death sentence in the weeks that follow. On the other side of this equation is the nine-banded armadillo, an animal so strange in its biology that early European explorers struggled to describe it at all. It is the only mammal in North America that wears a true exoskeleton, a shell made of bony plates called osteoderms, covered in a thin layer of keratin, the same material found in human fingernails. This armor runs across its back, its head, and even down its tail, leaving only the soft underbelly exposed. Nine-banded armadillos are almost entirely nocturnal, spending their nights digging through soil in search of insects, grubs, and earthworms, using a sense of smell so powerful they can detect prey buried up to 8 inches underground. Their eyesight, by contrast, is remarkably poor, so poor that an armadillo often has no idea anything is nearby unless it can hear or smell it first. When a threat is detected in time, the armadillo has real options. It can freeze, sprint for the safety of its burrow, or curl its exposed underside inward while presenting its armored back outward, a defense so effective it can turn away the jaws of predators far stronger than a bobcat. The catch is that every one of these defenses depends on early warning, and against a hunter built entirely around denying that warning, the armadillo's ancient toolkit faces a threat it was never designed to detect in the first place. The territory where these two animals now share the same ground stretches across a massive swath of the southern and central United States, from Texas and Oklahoma through the Gulf states and into the lower Midwest. Over the last century, the nine-banded armadillo has been steadily expanding its range northward, likely aided by a warming climate and the disappearance of natural predators in many regions it has moved into. This expansion has placed it directly into bobcat country, creating a predator-prey relationship that, until relatively recently, simply did not exist across most of the continent. For most of its evolutionary history in South America, The armadillo's primary threats came from animals that hunted in entirely different ways, through overwhelming force or prolonged digging, rather than a split-second ambush. That mismatch is what tonight's encounter is about to put to the test. The armadillo has just emerged from its burrow at dusk, following the same routine it repeats almost every evening of its life, nose pressed low to the ground, sweeping back and forth as it hunts for the scent of grubs hidden beneath the surface. Perched on a slightly elevated ridge nearby, hidden in a stand of dry grass, a bobcat has already picked out the armadillo's distinctive shuffling movement and begun its approach, keeping the wind at its back so its scent never reaches that sensitive nose. Every few seconds it pauses, watching for any sign that its cover has been blown. There is none. The armadillo keeps digging, completely unaware that a predator is now less than 20 feet away and closing and shrinking that gap with every unhurried, silent step. And here is where the mismatch shows its teeth. The armadillo's curl and armor defense is devastating against a predator that has to fight through it, but useless against a predator that never gives it the chance to activate. As the bobcat closes the final distance, it narrows its focus entirely onto the one part of the armadillo that no amount of bony plating protects: the head and neck. The strike itself happens almost too fast to process. The cat launches forward, pins the armadillo's body flat against the ground, and drives its bite home before the animal's defensive curl can even begin to form. There is no fight, no prolonged struggle, no chance for the armor to matter at all. It is over in the time it takes to read this sentence, and by the time the armadillo's instincts finally catch up to what is happening, the outcome has already been written. What makes this particular relationship so fascinating to researchers is that it represents something relatively new in ecological terms. As armadillos keep pushing into bobcat territory across the American South and Midwest, wildlife biologists have used camera traps to document just how often these encounters occur and how consistently they favor the cat. Juveniles and animals caught foraging far from their burrows are the most frequent casualties, while adults with a short sprint back to a tunnel entrance fare far better, since a burrow forces any confrontation into a narrow space where the bobcat can no longer rely on surprise or flanking angles. In other words, distance from shelter, more than armor itself, has emerged as the single strongest predictor of which encounters an armadillo survives. There's a broader ecological story behind all of this too. Bobcats serve as an important check on a wide range of small and medium-sized mammal populations across their range, and the armadillo's arrival has simply added a new food source that bobcats have proven remarkably quick to exploit. That kind of flexibility is exactly what has kept the bobcat one of the most widespread wildcats on the planet, despite centuries of habitat loss and hunting pressure, while countless more specialized predators have struggled just to hold their ground. The armadillo, for its part, is far from defenseless in the bigger picture. That same armor and digging ability make it remarkably resilient against snakes, birds of prey, and even domestic dogs in the suburban areas its range has now reached. Its reproductive biology works in its favor too. Female nine-banded armadillos undergo a process called delayed implantation, where fertilization can occur months before a pregnancy actually begins, and every pregnancy produces 4 genetically identical offspring of the same sex, a reproductive quirk found in no other mammal. Because of that, armadillo populations have kept expanding across the continent for the better part of a century, even as bobcats and other predators continue picking off individuals along the way. What tonight's encounter comes down to is a single blind spot in an otherwise unbeatable 55-million-year-old design, the one gap that a specific kind of hunter has learned to find. As climate patterns shift and human development keeps reshaping the map, species that never used to cross paths are being pushed into contact more often than at any point in recorded history. And the bobcat and the nine-banded armadillo are just one example playing out in fields and forest edges across the American South and Midwest. It's a contest between armor and ambush that will keep repeating itself, one encounter at a time, largely unnoticed by the millions of people living just miles from where it happens. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel and drop a like so you don't miss the next videos.